Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Culture Collective movie review empowered by Big Gold Belt Media. Now, this here is quite possibly the most anticipated film of 2025. And this one here is Wicked for Good. And here's a quick synopsis. Now demonetized as the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba lives in exile, while Glinda resides at the palace in the Emerald City, reveling in the perks of fame and popularity. As an angry mob rises against the Wicked Witch, she'll need to reunite with Glinda to transform herself and all of Oz for good. And this is directed again by John Chu, and it stars, you know who it stars at this point, Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Yeoh, Jonathan Bailey. And I don't think I'm leaving anyone else out here who needs to be talked about for this film. The first way to start off with Wicked for Good is understand going into this that Wicked for Good, being the second act of a play, is not going to be as crowd pleasing as Wicked Part 1 was. That was a good setup. It was wholesome. It was fun. Lots of big songs, lots of big singing. But when you get to the second act of the play Wicked, which is Wicked for Good in a theatrical version here, it's more somber. It's a little darker in tone and in its song selection. So it's supposed to be a complete change of pace from where we get majority of the feel-good moments in Wicked Part 1. I mean, if you really understand that by the time you get to Defying Gravity at the end of Part 1, that everything is kind of up in turmoil, then you would expect Wicked for Good to then embrace that turmoil and give you a more somber film than you got out of the first one. So again, that's for people that's going into this to fully understand exactly what you're getting into with Wicked for Good. As it just pertains to a film in general here, this is a really good film. I mean, Wicked is one of those musicals that for years, a lot of people would have said that it was impossible to film. It was going to be impossible to make a theatrical version of it. One, because it's a long play. Two, because the themes of it. And how do you get that on screen? And when we open up with Wicked for Good and we get the townspeople searching for the Wicked Witch of the West here, and we get to see Elphaba, and now the way she sees the world is kind of different from the way she saw it in Wicked Part 1. And because her eyes are now opened up, we get a completely different Elphaba. And I think that is, first and foremost, that is a great thing to get here. And Cynthia Erivo is gonna nail it every time. This is a role that I think she is so comfortable in playing. And it just comes across that way on film when you're watching her be Elphaba. Flip that into Ariana Grande, who is playing Glinda. This is quite possibly one of the best supporting performances, or one of the best overall performances on film this year, is what Ariana Grande pulls off in this film here. Again, because we understand switching from Act 1 to Act 2, Act 1 is a lot more about Elphaba, and exactly we get to the point of her needing to defy gravity and needing her to defy everything that's going around her and become the person that she is. Glinda here in Part 2, it's more about self-reflection and understanding that, one, people are using her. Two, how does that look to her? And how does it feel to live a lie? And is it something that she wants to move forward doing here? And Ariana Grande nails it perfectly. It's a great balance of humor, sympathy, sadness in this role and performance that she pulls off here. Like, this is exactly what you come to see Wicked for Good for. Is this Glinda's performance in the second act of this film. And that's not to say anyone else is lacking here, because Cynthia Erivo nails it. Jeff Goldblum, who the wizard, plays a bigger role in this second act. He is really good in it. Michelle Yeoh is going to be Michelle Yeoh. She's evil in this film, and it can feel one-notish, but then you really have to understand, again, like from a Broadway play standpoint, that this character was really just a side supporting character majority of the time, where she's like just like the, for lack of a better term, the Dick Cheney behind the scenes, kind of controlling everything. It's the type of character Michelle Yeoh plays in this role. And I can understand if people would think it's one note, but even if you believe wholeheartedly as one note, you got to understand that one note is hit, and it's hit extremely well in both of these films here. But again, that's what you're here for Wicked for Good, is that. And then the big reveal of everyone knows the character of the Wizard of Oz is going to be part of this part of the story here. And I think John does an amazing job at handling and managing people's expectations on what you're going to get from Dorothy and the characters that you grew up with from The Wizard of Oz in Wicked for Good. Because you just have to understand from the beginning, this has nothing to do with Dorothy. Like, she is a side quest character in this story. And I love the way that character and those characters are treated with respect, but they don't overshadow exactly what you're here for. You're here for big numbers. No Good Deed is an amazing number that I think everyone is here to see. For Good is another big number that everyone's here to see. But the two original songs here, one I think is called No Place Like Home, sung by Cynthia Erivo, is amazing. But that second song, sung by Ariana Grande, from Glenda's perspective of her eyes finally being open to the world, it's one of the most beautiful songs I've heard this year. She nails it perfectly. And I know I'm giving a lot of glowing things about Wicked for Good, but that's not to say this is the perfect movie. I would even go as far to say this is not as good, and it definitely won't be, I think, received as well as part one was, because it's a little darker in tone, and it's going to get people mind going to see if they can make that adjustment into what you're seeing. It's equivalent to the early Harry Potter films, and then when you got the Prisoner of Azkaban, and people were like, wait a minute, this is not my Harry Potter. This is not the Harry Potter I wanted to see. I think that is a good equivalency of what you get from Wicked Part 1 to Wicked for Good. And its dark tone is going to throw some people off. But not only that, because we always have to bring up that Wicked is structured as a play, and then they transformed it to a film. And Wicked for Good feels a lot more like a play than the big budget Hollywood spectacle that Wicked Part 1 felt like. And I think that can also throw a few people off. But if you are familiar with the Wicked story, if you are in love with these characters, Wicked for Good gives you everything humanly possible you could have wanted and makes a satisfying conclusion to the story. Granted, you may know what the conclusion is going into it, because you may be someone who's been obsessed with Wicked and seen the plays. I've seen the play at least 6 times, from the big Broadway productions to the local productions to high school productions of this show. So I do know exactly the beats that are going to take place here. But if you're one of those people, I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you're someone who got introduced to Wicked from the first film, I think this one may throw you off a little bit. But if you stay with the ride and you fully understand it, and I think it's going to hit a lot harder for people if you can see both films together, because then you get a full grasp of the picture, so it doesn't feel like a shock going from part 1 to part 2. And again, that's not saying that Wicked for Good does not stand alone, does not stand well on its own, because it does. And it's a solid thing. And for another big point to make here, musicals are not in general things that we get to see a lot in Hollywood, because they are normally extremely hard to make. But John Chu, who's at this point, you can call him a masterful director here. This film, along with part 1, are 2 of the best musical adaptations you're going to get. And this film, with its very somber tone, he still manages to give you the humorous moments to keep you engaged. Some lighthearted moments here and there, but also he's very respectful to the material, very respectful to the seriousness of Wicked for Good here, that I think is going to truly engage people when you go out to check to see it. This is, I think, the perfect accumulation for the Wicked story. But Wicked for Good, which comes out this Friday, out of a possible 10, I'm going to give Wicked for Good an 8.5 out of 10. Granted, not as strong as the first film. The first film its high notes were extremely high. And I think you accumulate that with Defying Gravity at the end of the film, you can't help but blow people's minds away. But here in this film, it is so somber. It's an overall sadness that comes along with this film, because just like the characters, the audience eyes have now been open to exactly what Oz is. And it's not sunshines and rainbows. It's not the popular song that we got from part one. It's way more at the end of that Defying Gravity moment where we realize like this is an evil place to be at. And Wicked for Good fully embraces that. And I think it does. I'm not going to say it's going to. It does take an audience on the ride with them so you can understand exactly the seriousness of the story while also falling in love all over again with these characters through great performances, especially Ariana Grande, who delivers quite possibly the best supporting performance this year on film. But check it out when it drops this weekend. Let us know what you think. This has been another movie review brought to you from the Culture Collective and powered by Big Go Bell Media. Peace, people.